Hi, everyone. Joining us today for our session, Innovation, Partnership, and the Future of Humanitarian Response, Learning from the Ahlan Simsim Project. As we are waiting for others to join, we'll take 2 minutes, and then we'll start the introduction of the panelists and the introduction of our amazing discussion today. We'll take 2 minutes, and then we'll start. Hello again. We're going to start as others are joining, since we have a lot to discuss and amazing panelists to have good discussions on childhood with and the importance of early childhood. Today, I want to welcome you to our session called Learning from Ahlan Simsim, Innovation, Partnership, and the Future of Humanitarian Response. That brings together different organizations that partners together for the past 6 years with one common vision, supporting younger children and their families, especially younger children affected by crisis. I'm Chantal Kallas. I had the privilege and honor with working with Ahlan Simsim for the past 6 years and still supporting until now. And with us today, we have Dr. Muhammad Meqdadi, the Secretary General of the National Council for Family Affairs in Jordan, Mrs. Rita Karam, the Secretary General of the Higher Council for Childhood in Lebanon, Mr. Joe Elias, the Senior Director of Program Management, International Social Impact at the Sesame Workshop, and Leila Hassou, Accountability to Affected People Advisor to Deputy Regional Humanitarian Coordinator for Northwest Syria, based now in Gaziantep. We have a mix of different people who are going to discuss together and with you today how Ahlan Simsim was able to work on early childhood, but more importantly, how each person in their own role are championing and working together to change what younger children are facing, knowing that today worldwide we have 71 million children aged between 0 to 5 who have never known life outside of a conflict. Traditional approaches for short-term humanitarian aid and long-term development assistance have often been unable to respond to these needs that are still growing by the day. Within this context, the International Rescue Committee and Sesame Workshop came together to work and create what we have today as the Ahlan Simsim, which means Welcome Sesame in Arabic. It is a transformative initiative designed to deliver and scale up program services and resources in early childhood development. This would not have been possible without the support and the work and the close partnership with approximately 100 stakeholders in Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria and beyond. Ahlan Simsim is now a collective effort in which we were able to reach children where they are, not only in schools, but also in community centers, in healthcare centers, in childcare, and also at home through mobile and TV stations. In 6 years, the initiative have launched dozens of programmatic pathways that have reached over 3 million children with direct services in a range of acute and procreated crisis-affected regions, as said before, across Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. And over 27 million children have watched the locally produced Arabic TV language, titled Ahlan Simsim as the project. We have a lot to share. We have an extensive wealth of learning that also we can share and discuss together. But beyond that, today we have our partners that together we're going to talk what is important, what did we learn, And we will start today with one of Ahlan Simsim champions, Joseph Elias. Joseph comes to us with his role as Senior Director in International Social Impact at Sesame Workshop, and he has an extensive experience in project and systems designs and management. His specialization is in supporting children, women, refugees, and all vulnerable populations. Currently, in his role in Ahlan Simsim, Joseph aids families in crisis across Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria with a master's in public health and a PMEP certification. All of his roles globally, including the significant roles he plays in CDC projects and initiatives, have prepared him to play this amazing role. But more importantly, his personal inspiration from his background as the child of Lebanese refugees now residing in New York with his partner and their dog Bud. Joe will introduce us to Ahlan Simsim from his role as well. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Chantal. I am so privileged to be here with you all. I am a huge supporter and fan of Chantal as well as one of my colleagues working across over at IRC. And I truly am in such an amazing space with all of the panelists here who've done significant work to make Ahlan Simsim a reality in all of the different spaces that we hope them to be. I'm just going to briefly talk a little bit about, the importance of ECD, its multi-sectoral nature, maybe frame a couple of challenges and opportunities on the integration of ECD, and then I'll just give you a little bit of a preview on what you'll hear with the panelists who you've all obviously are very interested in hearing a lot about. As Chantal mentioned, Ahlan Simsim and the work we do is focusing on these needs of the whole child. So from health and developmental milestones to foundational skills and what we like to call the emotional ABCs, like identifying and managing big feelings. We really aim to meet children and families where they are. And this is especially important when we think about the contexts that we are serving in, crises like war, climate change, the COVID-19 pandemic, and hunger have left more people forcibly displaced around the world right now than any time since the end of World War II. Nearly half of those displaced are children, with crises protracting for longer and longer. Many children may spend their entire childhoods without access to critical educational, developmental, and learning opportunities. For children under 5 living in conflict-affected regions, this means the most crucial time in their development is spent in crisis. The brain develops faster than any other time in the first 5 years of life. So this is also the period when the brain is most sensitive to a child's environment. And this makes it an especially vital period for children experiencing trauma to get the early childhood support they need, including responsive caregiving and early learning opportunities. Without this, a generation will have lasting repercussions from a childhood disrupted by conflict, crisis, and displacement. And as Chantal mentioned earlier, in the Middle East and North Africa region, 1 in 3 children are affected by conflict and violence. 1 in 5 are out of school. And that means that children in places in the region, like the occupied Palestinian territory, Syria, Sudan, and Yemen, are being exposed to prolonged adversity during early years when the brain is the most sensitive to a child's environment. The impact of this is that children risk that there's a risk of long-term effects on health, learning, and behavior that will impact their future, which makes the scalability of this significantly important because it is about the interconnectedness of all the different technical and intersectoral areas of what a child experiences every day. And with that, I just kind of think it's important to share that what I know that you'll hear from the panelists will be at least 3 examples of ECD coordination approaches at the country level, There will be a discussion around the successes and challenges, which I love learning. So I think that it's so wonderful to be exposed to a lot of the learnings there. And then we'll put forward some recommendations for strengthening inter-cluster coordination for ECD and other cross-cutting issues. Thank you all. Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for framing the importance again of this issue that we're facing today. Is we're working all together to take care of our children so that generations to come can really support the region. And this is from this stance, I want to introduce you to Dr. Muhammad Mekdadi. Dr. Muhammad Mekdadi is the Secretary General of the National Council of Family Affairs. He holds a PhD in sociology with a specialization in organizational sociology. Dr. Mekdadi has been and is a visionary leader with over 22 years of expertise in developing national policies and strategy aimed at advances human and social development and family affairs. He also has played a pivotal role in shaping influential national documents in Jordan and beyond that address family protection, gender-based violence, and child protection. His influential work extends beyond Jordan, as said before, to advisory roles in prestigious organizations such as the Arab Women Organization and the League of Arab States. With this rich background and great effort that you have been doing, Dr. Mekdadi, for the Jordanian children and all children living in Jordan, I know, and I'm sure some of the people in this attending this panel know, but NCFA has been leading the ECD coordination in Jordan, bringing together all key stakeholders as local and international organizations that are relevant to younger children to address challenges and build a common framework. First, do you see an added value for a separate national ECD working group? And if so, what would you recommend for other countries who want to start or enhance similar ECD-focused coordination efforts?
Thank you, Chantal, and it's my privilege to be with you all at this an important issue regarding early childhood, because you know everybody know that. And this is the term that we use all the time. Investment in children is investment in the future. So this is the word that we all the time advocating for. Let me just briefly talk about what is NCFAs and why we are playing this role. Well, the National Council for Family Affairs was created in 2001, with a special law. So we are an independent national organization. The mandate of the council is to play as a think tank body in Jordan regarding developing policy, strategy, amending legislations, and also to monitor the quality of services that delivering to families and children. And ECD especially, it's within the mandate of the council. It's within the law of the council. So what we are doing is we are playing like a coordinating body. We open like a platform for everybody to coordinate and to collaborate together. On the ECD side, we found that in 2018, we have a lot of players, especially after the crisis in Syria, and we have a lot of refugees and so on. So we have a lot of players that's delivering services for ECD especially, but it's mostly they are not working together. So the coordination is missing, the collaboration is missing. So we think at that time we need to have such a mechanism, a coordination body for all stakeholders, UN, international, governmental, and NGOs to sit together in the beginning and to start coordinate, to start talking together, So we create this committee or this team. We call it the National ECD Team in 2018. So the role of the team, as I mentioned, is the coordination. So we start meeting regularly every month. So and we have a database for this organization who's doing what at least because we need to know what kind of services is there, what kind of challenges that we are facing with the policy and the legislation, because this is our mandate, is to develop these policies, to develop any needed legislations. So we did, since that time, actually, we did a lot of things with this team. One of them is recently we endorsed the National Child Right Law. It's in collaboration with the ECD team, because they are representing all the stakeholders. Also, what we did last year, we have a national reports that reflecting the situation of ECD in Jordan, because what we think we could not create any new or ask for any new programs without knowing what we are facing, what are our priorities. So this is the idea of having this report with the ECD team, is to prioritize our issues in Jordan. And also the aim of this report, also of the team, is to monitor the situation of services in Jordan. So what we think in Jordan, based on this experience and the previous experience with having such national teams in Jordan, it is having a mechanism at country level, playing a role of coordination and collaboration. It's very crucial to scale up with the issue of ECD in any country. Without that, everybody will stand alone will implement programs and will repeat the programs that we are already implementing. So this team recently, and I think because the trust that we received as NCFA and as a team, where recently the government of Jordan assigned the NCFA and the team to develop a new national child care policy for the next 5 years, which is I think it is an important thing for the ECD to handle this child care policy at a national level. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meghdati, and congrats on the new assignment, which I know is a big one, but NCFA is up to it. And it's very interesting to hear from you on the importance of coordination, collaboration, and not stopping there, but also monitoring to make sure that we have a common vision. And that's one of the biggest learning also from the Ahlan Simsim project, that is around the importance of, if we want to reach everyone, we need to better understand the system and partner from within the system rather than bringing new projects as INGOs do. So that's a learning we got from you, from NCFA and other partners as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Meghdati. Also joining us today is Mrs. Rita Karam. Mrs. Rita Karam is an expert in the field of childhood and child rights, with a robust background that includes a master's degree in social policy and an executive master's in child rights from Lebanese University, supplemented by a diploma from the University of Victoria in Canada. Currently, Mrs. Karam is the Secretary General of the Higher Council for Childhood at the Ministry of Social Affairs in Lebanon. She is known for her exceptional leadership in project management and child protection initiatives. She is a true devoted advocate for children's rights, collaborating effectively with ministries and NGOs to safeguard children against all forms of violence. I had a very nice discussion the other day with Mrs. Karam, and she's like, along the 25 years of experience and in the past 10 years specifically, I've coached and trained so many NGO staff, and we're thankful and grateful for that. I'm one of them as well. So for you, Mrs. Rita, I know the HCC, the Higher Council for Childhood, convenes essential governmental stakeholders who shape ECD initiatives within the countries. In contexts like Lebanon, that has been burdened with significant economic and security challenges, leading to daily competing priorities, how can we guarantee that the needs of the younger children are prioritized? And how is HCC advocating for this agenda?
Okay, thank you very much. So first of all, yeah, I agree with you that you are having a tough situation in Lebanon and we are suffering a lot. So, but even though we are working and we are still working on childhood in Lebanon, because as you may know that children are the most vulnerable people in Lebanon. So that's why we are focusing on children and we are trying as much as we can to be able to be on to be able to achieve our objectives. So first of all, I will present my who is the Higher Council for Childhood, but I'm not able to. Okay, so the role of HCC it is the same role of NCFA. So in Jordan, so we are working on training, CRC state report, coordination between stakeholders, amending legislation, lobby and advocacy, strategy and action plan, and study. So the HCC is a founding member of the Arab Network of Early Childhood, and this network is composed of 10 Arab countries who are Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Oman, Yemen, Sudan, Syria, Egypt, and Tunisia, and Morocco. So first of all, under the umbrella of the Arab Network of Early Childhood, so we create the networking on a regional level, ECD resources and expertise to Arab communities on young children's rights to health, education, family life, play, and recreation. So this is the mission of the Arab Network on ECD. And the main objective is to connect, to empower, align, advocate, produce, and deliver all the activities about early childhood. With the Arab Network for Early Childhood, in collaboration with HCC, we participate in a study on children's rights laws in the Arab world. So it was very important to us to know what is the situation of children in Lebanon. So with the support of the Arab Network, so we had the ability to do this study, and it was very important because it was based on the CRC recommendation. So it was very good for us. And the second one, participate in a study on the impact of the climate crisis on families and young children. So even this study has been done with other Arab countries. Participation in the study of working conditions of educators in nurseries and kindergartens. And at the end, provide a support for HCC, National Working Group. So this one also has been done. So ECD National Working Group in Lebanon, it has been created by His Excellency Minister of Social Affairs, because he is the chairman of the Higher Council for Childhood. And the committee is composed of UNICEF, Ministry of Social Affairs, Ministry of Public Health, Ministry of Education, and Union of the Private Schools, because as you may know, that we have the age of 4 to 8 years old, so it was very important to us to be with us, and 2 syndicates of nurseries, because we have two syndicates. So this is Lebanon. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Rita, and thank you for introducing HCC for us. And I know in a place like Lebanon, prioritizing learning and building evidence to build programs is very important. So that's very interesting to hear from you as well. Our last but definitely not least speaker is Mrs. Leila Hassou. She brings a dynamic blend of advocacy, communication, and media management skills to her role currently as the Accountability to Affected People Advisor to the Deputy Regional Humanitarian Coordinator for Northwest Syria. She has a rich career spanning 9 years in which she has been at the forefront of fostering inclusive platforms that amplify the voices of children, women, and vulnerable populations within local community, influencing policy and decision-making processes. Her passionate commitment to human rights and humanitarian principles has driven significant advancement in children and women's rights amidst the ongoing crisis in Syria. And I know it's not easy, especially when you're in Gaziantep supporting children inside of Syria and Northwest Syria. And over the past 5 years, I've also had the privilege to work with you very closely in different roles. And you've had significant positions in 2 key organizations. One, in a local organization, contributing as an implementer, influencer, and today contributing additionally to your other roles as a decision maker to support children transitioning across different agencies. From the perspective of the different roles you have held, what advice do you propose to guarantee prioritization of ECD in a setting like Northwest Syria? Additionally, if I might, how might various stakeholders work together to contribute to this effort?
Thank you, Chantal. It's an honor to be with you, all of you today. I want to start talking in my previous role with the Child Guardian, the local NGO. We were first introduced to early childhood development by Ahlan Simsim and IRC. Our experience has shown that working with young children adds value beyond programmatic and service provision. Rather, we had to try to integrate it into the current education system, which is more technical sustainable, while also developing local capacity to ensure the program sustainability. In this context, I mean the cross-border Syria context, focusing on advocacy and dissemination of the early childhood concept. We were discussing the program's absence from any grant that time or local policy for more than 8 years. Even integrating the program into existing project was difficult at the time. I believe that we were able at the time through collecting advocacy effort to place it among education cluster priorities, which later made it easy for us to integrate it into the local education system. This may appear a little bit simple, but I assure you that it required a significant amount of time, resource from all the members inside ECD networks inside Syria, for Northwest Syria, to achieve this success. I clearly recall our first meeting in establishing this childhood network, focusing on advocacy and dissemination of the early childhood concept. Today, I work as accountability advisor to affected community, which half of whom in our context are children. Bringing the voice of children remains a top priority for me, as it is considered a great challenge for us to create a feedback mechanism from my role now that reflects children's voice. We really need the innovation approach that Ahlan Simsim and IRC, that Ahlan Simsim's work to simple the communication with children and allow them work to approach us and express their opinion. I would like to make a point that may appear a little it's a dream, but it's central to my work today. Everything is working hard today within the framework of accountability for affected community, as well as the mechanism I'm putting now in place to ensure affecting people participation in decision maker. making and accountable us can be summarized in the value that children learn in their early years. We need more human society that is compassionate, capable to sharing resource and aware of their rights. These are basically the values that Ahlan Simsim instill in the children. Investing more time in implementing this basic value in our children will guarantee more accountable future. And this is from my end.
Thank you so much, Leila. I might say, Ahlan Simsim, I'm sure for all of those attending the panel today, and you being part of it as well as our other panelists, has been a dream. But now we're seeing that dreams can come true if we work together. So hopefully the dream you have today is a work in progress that we can work on together. And as our colleagues are saying in the chat, very well said, Leila. That brings me also to a learning that you have mentioned, that Ahlan Simsim, when we look, we have 3 core learnings. And one of them I have shared previously on the importance of understanding the systems in which we work and partnering within it, but also the importance and how crucial it is to be innovative, to think within every context, to the context we're in, and changing, learning, and adapting the solutions so that they fit the needs of the children that are growing overall. I'm going to start with you for the next question, since I have you here big on my screen. So also the third learning we have is how can we reconsider the silos we've been working in the humanitarian sector, especially when we are working in crisis-affected regions. We usually work either in health or in protection, or either in development or in humanitarian. How do we break this and bring together the 2 other learning, innovation and scale and systems, so that we can learn this? So that's a learning from the Ahlan Simsim. And I want to see from your, also you've started tackling this, from your experience with Ahlan Simsim, how has the partnership so far redefined this interaction between the humanitarian aid and early childhood development conflict and crisis areas? I'll start with you, Leila, and would love to hear from all of our panelists as well.
So from our partnership, like previous partnership and ongoing partnership,
and
as I said,
new ones to come.
And as I said, I want to highlight that we need to focus more in I want to give my immediate advice is not really to rely on traditional advocacy to enhance the ECD in this region. What we need to do is to use system thinking approach that we did that before in our partnership before through NGOs and through the cluster system, and put the that we succeed to put the ECD as a priority in 1 year of the in cluster system. And we really need to map the stakeholders and understand their political economy, and really rely on basic human empathy. We need to identify strong actors. That's what we did in the Northwest Syria cross-border networks. To gatekeepers, and I mean here to individual, not the organization. Sometimes one people can change a lot, not just one organization or entity. And invest time in establishing relationship with them. They will become our allies in changing the policies. The second things I want also to amplify, and more important step, is to bring the voice of the community, including children, directly to those decision-making process, or also create opportunity for decision maker to meet and interact with the children. And this will help a lot for enhancing or changing policy. Children, families, and teacher, and remove the usual layer of moderator that is there always. Be innovation, as you said, in designing virtual tour, online meeting, video, and actual visit to help policymakers see with their own eyes the opportunity and potential outcome. Think big with policy change, but start with small, quick wins for decision making.
Thank you so much, Leila. This is a treasure. Thank you so much. Dr. Megdadi would love to hear from you as well on this.
Yeah, thank you, Chantal. Well, first of all, of course, I would like to thank IRC and Sesame Project for what we did, and this collaboration. It's an ongoing collaboration with the Sesame Project. I think not all the agencies that supporting in every country, that they come with an understanding the needs of the society. So this was, for me, it was an excellent experience with the Sesame Project. They understand very well what we need, and we work together and it's an important for the sustainability, how we can institutionalize the services within the country, because you know the funded agencies, they come for implementing a program and then it's finished. But when you from the beginning focus on the sustainability, how we can sustain the services is there. It was an excellent experience, and so I thank Sesame Project and IRC for this. Well, what we did is regarding to what I just mentioned. So what we did at a policy level, that we developed with the IRC through this project, and a quality system for nurseries in Jordan. And we did not stop at this, because what we are thinking now, how we can ensure the sustainability of this kind of system within Jordan, because our partners was one of the most important governmental part who can handle this issue in the future, which is we call it the VTC, the Vocational Training Cooperation. It's a governmental organization, and this is very crucial for us, because you need, when you talk about localization and sustainability, you need this involvement of this organization, and from the beginning. And this is the idea of involving VTC in the beginning. The other thing what we did is the provision of incubators, of service providers, to give them a license and an accreditation. This is something also we work with another organization. It's a governmental organization beside the Vocational Training Cooperation, which is the Technical Skills Development Authority. Well, nowadays they are giving licenses to the service providers. So we ensure that what we did regarding to the policy that we developed is sustained. And also we make a training for more than 700 service providers, including a TOT for the vocational training cooperation professional, because by the end, now they are starting train other service providers on the curricula that we developed before. So the idea of and the experience that I can brief about our experience in working with Sesame Project and IRC is that we develop the policy and we guarantee the sustainability of the implementation of this policy. This is from my side.
That's amazing, Dr. Megdadi. Thank you so much. Rita, would love to hear from you as well.
Okay, so from our side, so as
as IRC knows that we have a partnership with them since years, and we have been working with them a lot about early childhood and development. And also, we are now working together. I would like to share my screen. Okay, so with the Arab Network for Early Childhood and Arab Resource Collective and HCC, we are planning now we are implementing the HEPPP, Health Early Learning and Protection Parenting Program. And with the Arab Network for Early Childhood, Arab Resources Collective, IRC Lebanon, and HCC, we are working on ongoing development of the national ECD strategy. Finally, we'll be able now to have a strategy on the ECD because we had one, but it was a draft one. And through the years, and because all the situation in Lebanon has been changed, so we would like to update this national strategy, and with the support with IRC, we will be able to update it. And also we worked with IRC on standards for nurseries affiliated with the Ministry of Social Affairs towards a safe and child-friendly development environment. And also they worked on a unified health record for children. So as you may know, Lebanon has a lot of problems and we are in need of a lot of support. So that's why IRC came to us and provide us the fund needed. And also about Simsimi, Ahlan Simsim, it is a great initiative because as you may know that children are not a traditional children anymore. You know that once they do have 6 months, the parents will give the cell phones to children and children will be able to see movies and songs and all the motions. So it's very important to update ourselves to be able to support our children because they are a new generation and they are a tech generation. So it is important to make a lot of kind of movies and social media reels to be able to reach out our children, and especially who are without any support of their parents, because even if they are vulnerable, they do have a cell phone with them. So that's why it's very important to reach out to them and to be able to support them as much as we can to be able to really have a new generation with a quality of ethics and values. So that's why IRC is here with us to support us, and also many partners who are working with us to be able to achieve our goals in this very critical situation in Lebanon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much and it's been it's as said, like with NCFA and HCC, it's been an interesting journey, but it has there's a lot coming as well. It's not the end of it, I'm sure. Joe would love to hear from you on this question as well.
Thank you, Chantal. I'm always so impressed by the people I work with and the people on the panel. I'm so thankful for them. I think one of the things, and thank you, Mrs. Larita, for mentioning technology, because the first thing I want to mention is that as Chantal mentioned and as I've mentioned, when we meet the child where they're at, we're understanding the ecosystem that they're in. So the circles of care and the circles of the experience that they have. As Sesame Workshop, as an organization that's focused on children's media, early childhood development, and really wanting to partner very strongly with an important organization like the International Rescue Committee, IRC, we thought that the power of children's media and direct and wraparound services with the communities would make a huge difference. So we know, and as Chantal mentioned at the top of the meeting, that we've reached 27 million children in the Middle East and North Africa with the TV show. And that to me is an element of scaling, an element of being able to produce something and create something that we did both as our organizations to then find out that it was received very strongly. Now, of course, there's a very strong nostalgia to Iftah Ya Simsim, which has been in the Middle East for quite a while. So I just wanted to mention that the power of technology and media and having a very trusted brand and a reputation, because in our market research, we also found that parents and caregivers really trusted all the effort that went into the show and could feel comfortable with their child watching the show either with them or without them. And what we love is that we have research that shows that they watched it with the child, and then after the show, they would do things together based on what they watched. One other thing I just wanted to mention based on Chantal's question is this power of integration, right? So, and Dr. Magdadi kind of mentioned it in his piece as well. But when we also think about the partnership with the Ministry of Health in Jordan, we actually did work, and IRC really was a strong leader here in co-developing with the Ministry of Health in Jordan, this ECD training for nurses and midwives. And this included physical resources, a dialogue tool, to guide the conversation. And playful learning corners were created in these spaces, which could be very uncomfortable for children and or, caregivers, parents, when it comes to health and coming in for health checkups. And those playful learning corners, they reinforce the information that was provided, including the importance of play and strengthening the caregiver-child connection, which we think is also something we wanted to do with the TV show and the social media presence. And the IRC has proven that they've actually reached, through the Ministry of Health, Jordan, in that program that was delivered, at least 35,000 caregivers estimated. And because it was integrated into their work, just like the work that Dr. Magdadi is doing and Mrs. Rita is doing, in this particular example with the Ministry of Health integration, they're estimating that now they potentially will be reaching 150,000 children per year now that it's been established into that work. So I just thought that would be a really helpful example to share. Thanks, Chantal.
Manju, I've heard great things that I've heard them being repeated by our 4 panelists that are key, and I'd love to share a few points from what I've heard that are interesting. Focusing on the child is something that is a pattern across everyone who really works within Ahlan Simsim and who Ahlan Simsim has partnered with. Also, the ability to create strong relationship, the benefit of time in building these relationships and breaking the traditional through innovation and learning from each other. They're not only learning in one country, but learning from each other. These are very interesting learning, if I might say, as I've said, learning 3 times in a row that we can take together in the future. We have 2 questions from our participants that I would love to share with our panelists, and please feel free to unmute and answer the question if you feel you have the answer for it. First question from Isabel. Thank you, Isabel. She's asking, her question is about children with disabilities and their families. How were you in the different projects that we've taken together? Were you able to take them into account? And what was the process? Anyone would like to answer it? I know Dr. Haytham from NCFA also have shared some notes in the chat if you're interested also to read his responses. Mrs. Rita, Dr. Magdadi, Mrs. Leila, if there's anything you'd like to add on this?
Yeah, I would. Oh, sorry. تفضل.
Thank you. Well, previously we already have a coordination with the Council of with Disability in Jordan. When we develop a curricula for the nursery in Jordan, we already developed part of it, how to deal and to engage the children with disability within the nurseries, and how the idea of it's an engagement of the children with disability at the same nurseries with other children. So we already included within the curricula that we developed before this part which targeted the children with disability.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Megdadi. Mrs. Karam.
Yeah, I would like to add that the Ministry of Social Affairs has a partnership with a lot of several NGOs who are working with children with disabilities, and they are supporting them financially. It was before the crisis, but now we do have the government has a crisis, so we are trying as much as we can to support them. But indeed, during our development of our strategy, we will have for sure a component about children with disabilities. And in the National ECD Committee, we do have a person who is representing these children to be able to put all the content properly in our strategy and to take them into consideration. So yeah, for sure, we are working on children with disabilities as well as all the children in Lebanon. Thank you.
Definitely, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, in Syria, the context is different because it's out of control government and the whole system is different. But I remember very well that many implementing partners with IRC, they're working closely with the children with disabilities. But in general, a program supporting children with disability in Northwest Syria is very rare and small. But because IRC have implementing partner working with children with disabilities, I remember that they reach out the children inside the school for preschool because there is no small, like preschool is inside school themselves. So yeah, I remember that they reach out the children with disabilities with the project.
Thank you so much. Joe, would love to hear about Amira if you want to share also with our participants who don't know her.
Yes, thank you, Chantal. So we believed that the power of Muppets and puppets and education and entertainment can make a huge difference, and in particular, the experience of children with disabilities. So we designed and created a Muppet by the name of Amira, who is a green Muppet. She's a little bit older than the other Muppets. She's got a very funny sense of humor, and she loves science, technology, education, the STEM area. And she's also in a wheelchair and on crutches. And we actually did some formative research with children who have disabilities and asked them about Amira and asked them about what they loved about her. And they actually all said everything except that she's also in a wheelchair, that she's also on crutches, because they were like, well, she's just like me. I don't need to talk about that necessarily. And then, but they also were like, oh, that's someone that looks like me, that has a similar experience to me. So we really have integrated as a core character, Amira, into the Ahlan Simsim universe as someone who's so important, who is really a good friend, and also an opportunity to learn about differences, about mutual respect and understanding, and also about the different layers of children and their lived experiences. Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you so much, Joe. Our last question from the audience is from Caroline Davis. She is wondering how much it had to gain support for the program because so many people around the world know Sesame Street. Would this project have been harder to implement if there wasn't a celebrity media partner? Would love to hear from our panelists on this and Joe as well. You can start, Joe.
Yeah, let me just start because I was just about to type it into the chat. But I think that what's important here is that any kind of media and celebrity element is assessed through the understanding of cultural and the ECD context. So we first go through and have workshops with the IRC and other in-region advisors like psychologists, linguists, sociologists, ECD specialists, children media specialists, and we co-design a curriculum. And that's the first thing. And then we layer on top of that the power of the Simsim brand of Iftah Ya Simsim's nostalgia. And we use that to enhance and strengthen what we can do to hook people into the space that we want them to invite them into, and then kind of add layers of media and celebrity. And all at every single time we're constantly thinking about the child. Everything is child-centered. So obviously we want the parents and the caregivers to kind of be like, oh, that's a celebrity I know. I notice them. I want to get in, I want to see that as well. And that's a kind of a little bit of a hook there. But anyone we work with is vetted, is seen as, would they make sense in the world that we're creating? Would they make sense to our partners like NCFA and HCC in Lebanon? And so we're constantly kind of starting with children, the ECD and ECE elements, the curriculum, and then we layer on top of that. But I'd love to hear from what others think about that question too.
Yeah, I would like to say something about this.
Sure, go ahead.
I would like to suggest something. If IRC will be able to do an assessment about bloggers and influencers in Lebanon and all the Arab countries to be able to know who are the famous people for these children. And accordingly, there will be a partnership between the influencers and the Ahlan Simsim to be able to reach out more and more and more children. Because in Lebanon, children are very attaching to influencers. So that it will be one of a method to be able to approach and to reach out more children. And it will be really an effective way because Ahlan Simsim is a program with ethical and values ideas. So it's very important to reach our children and to bring these ideas to them. And yeah, for if they were not a media partner, they will not be able to reach children because in this situation, the children are on social media. They are not on TV. So that's why it's very important to reach them through their methods and not our methods. So that's why it's very important to do this kind of activities. And the second one, if we can do a puppet, a real puppet, but as a human puppet, so the people will be able to wear this puppet and go to schools and to even introduce this Ahlan Simsim to schools to be able, these children, when they will see the puppet on social media, they will say, oh, I see it in my school, so I have to go and to follow them. So it's very important to have a new approach with children to be able to reach children during our new generation in Lebanon. And I know perhaps in other country it would be also possible to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Karam. Very interesting suggestion and definitely to be taken into consideration in a world where we have media and accessing children where they're at, as we've been saying in this session. I want to draw your attention to a product shared by my colleague on inclusion, Majd, that you can see in the chat. And I know we're 2 minutes into the end of our session. So I want to take this opportunity to thank our panelists for attending and give the closure remarks to the project director, Marianne Stone, the project director of Ahlan Simsim from the International Rescue Committee side. To you, Marianne.
Thank you. I'll be quick because I know we only have 2 minutes. I think everything has been very well covered and I've been with the project since the beginning and I, like Joe, always really enjoy these sessions because I learn new things every time. And I think that that's really been central also to the culture of the project. Chantal kind of already covered some of the things, but I was writing a lot of notes as the panelists were talking and looking at the chat and the questions and things like coordination and the importance of working together came up over and over. And often when I reflect on Ahlan Simsim, I say that the project started and succeeded in partnership. And that's really been central for us as a partnership between the IRC and Sesame Workshop, but also with everybody who's been on the panel today. So thank you all to each individual panelist. I've met two of you. I've had coffee with you, Rita, and I think we've had dinner, Dr. Makdadi, so it's really nice to see you. Leila, I don't think that we've met in person, but I've heard so much about you, so thank you for joining. And I wanted to just wrap up with two things. One, going back to something that Dr. Makdadi said about understanding needs. And we know that the needs of children in MENA are not going anywhere. And so as a partnership, we're really looking forward to what we call the next generation of this program. So drawing also from some language from you, Rita, and really thinking about how can we continue to address the needs of children in MENA. So if anybody is interested in speaking to us about that, please get in touch. And I wanted to wrap with something that I wrote down that Leila said that I think was really powerful. She said, sometimes one person can change a lot. And I think that that's what we've been really trying to do here at the level of the individual child, and also lifting that up to how we coordinate with each other, how we partner with each other, and the content that we create that really tries to keep children and families in the center. And that really spoke to me. So I just wanted to end with that. And thank you, everyone. And we will follow up with everybody who registered with the report that we recently released, and all of the other resources that have been shared on the chat as relevant. So thank you, everyone, for joining.